Let's go back to one of my sayings is that when all else fails, they take you to war. Go back to the World War II. What preceded it? The Great Depression. This is from History Today. United States freezes Japanese assets. On July 26, 1941, President Franklin Roosevelt seized all Japanese assets in the United States. You know why? In retaliation for the Japanese occupation of French Indochina. Remember, the Great Depression's going on. Wait a minute. He stole the Japanese money because they invaded French Indochina? What the hell are the French doing in Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos? And you got the nerve to call it French Indochina? What the hell are you doing over there? It gets better. Britain and the Dutch East Indies. Hey, wait a minute. Dutch East Indies? What the hell are the Dutch doing in Indonesia? We're stealing, robbing, pillaging. We'll do anything we want. We'll kill anybody we want for the money we want to steal and everything else. Anyway, followed suit. The result, Japanese lost access to 3/4 of its overseas trade and 88% of its imported oil. 88% of its imported oil? They only import 100%. And you cut off, they lost 3/4 of their global trade? Can't understand why they bombed Pearl Harbor. Blow me away. I didn't know this until 2 years ago. And this is the kind of language. Japan occupied Cameron Naval Air Force Base, 800 miles from the Philippines, where Americans had troops. What the hell are Americans doing with troops in the Philippines? And you being in Singapore and the British base at Singapore. Why, the sun never sets on the British Empire. We can kill anybody we want anywhere, but you have to say it in a proper language. When all else fails, they take you to war. Let's go back to the dot-com bust. When wrote about it in your Trends Journal. We made the forecast in the fall of 1999. The dot-com bust happened in March of 2000. Little Georgie Bush gets elected. Nations in recession, Nasdaq's down, 70%? 9/11, war on terror. 90% of the people swallowed the crap, spewing it out of that little clown's mouth. We're going to get that guy Osama bin Laden, dead or alive. When all else fails, they take you to war. Let's go to Israel. Ancient history. Netanyahu gets elected in December 2022. Week after week after week, we're writing in our Trends Journal the tragedies that, not my language, the mainstream media called Netanyahu's, quote, extreme right-wing government. Slaughtering Palestinians in the West Bank, robbing more land, disgusting. And he tries to pass the Judicial Reform Act. 39 weeks of protests were going on in Israel before Hamas attacked on October 7, 2023. Wrote about it in details, not my language, the language of the president of Israel, Isaac Herzog. Israel, back in 2023, before Hamas attacked, was, quote, in a civil war. We write only the facts in the Trends Journal. 2 days after the attack, it came out that the United States and Egypt warned Israel that this would happen. They gave them a warning. And Haaretz, the Israeli newspaper, which we subscribe to, has reported that Israel, they knew that it was going to happen. They let it happen. When all else fails, they take you to war. Now, here we are now in the presidential election coming up in the United States. All of a sudden, American troops are killed or whatever. The Russians hacked our banking system. They'll make up something to unite the people against the people that we've been taught to hate all our lives, the Russians and the Iranians. And that will unite the people, and they'll support the people in power right now. So that's what we're looking for. Because this thing, the genocidal war, now Israel's committing against the Palestinians, and Netanyahu has warned the people in Lebanon that you're going to suffer. His words, suffer, as the people in Gaza are. World War III has already begun. This is why I read to you this piece about United States getting involved in this war. There was a war going on in Europe and Asia, and they dragged us into it. 80% of the people in the United States were opposed to getting involved in the European and the Asian wars before Japan bombed Pearl Harbor. Tracking trends is the understanding of where we are and how we got here to see where we're going. And by the way, these are some of my books. Trend Tracking, far better than Megatrends, Time Magazine. Trends 2000, international bestseller. We only put facts down. It's not what you like, what you want, what you wish for. And you got to look at Germany. Let's go back to 2019, just before the COVID war. Germany was on the cusp of recession. That's right. Look up the data. The COVID war starts. They pumped in countless trillions of dollars, government buying corporate bonds, negative interest rate policy. They artificially propped up the markets. They caused inflation by dumping all this cheap money in and artificially boost. Now it's going back to reality. So Germany's going back to where it was in 2019 and the rest of the global economy. Germany is the largest economy in the EU, the third largest in the world. China, the second largest. Their economy's gone to crap because of 3 years of zero COVID policy. The reality is hitting. Everything was artificially boosted up, and now the crash is coming. There's no way to inflate this because they're going to be lowering interest rates. That's going to bring inflation up, but that's not going to boost the economy that much because the people are busted. 3/4 of Americans are having trouble meeting their debt level, paying their debt. Average interest rates on credit cards in America, nearly 22%. Hey, how about the mafia? Hey, whoa, hey. If the Italians were doing that, hey, look what they're doing. Oh, but the banksters could do it. American people had to pay $14 billion in debt for late payments last year because of the high interest rates. So the whole thing is going down everywhere. You're looking what's going on with Volkswagen cutting back. You mentioned the trade wars going on. Now China's retaliating. No, this is the beginning of the end. We are going through the worst geopolitical and socioeconomic crisis in the history of the world, part 1 and part 2, because what no one is talking about, other than the Trends Journal, is the office building bust. You have an office vacancy rate, nobody in there, in the United States, in the largest cities, of 24%. Vacant. Your office occupancy rate, meaning people going back to the work, 51%. Okay, I own the office building. How am I going to pay my debt, my loan, when I don't have tenants anymore? They're all leaving. They don't need all this space. How are the banks going to cover the losses? Because when they dumped all that cheap money in and people started putting money in the bank, the banks bought treasuries. Oh, you bought treasuries when interest rates was zero? They ain't got the dough to cover this. There's going to be an office building bust. It's going to cause the banks to go bust. That's going to be the greatest financial crisis, way worse than the Great Depression. But don't worry. When all else fails, they take you to war. We are on the verge of nuclear annihilation. We need peace on earth. And we need a renaissance. You know, what followed the Black Plague? I mean, the people were killing themselves with the filthy sanitation. 60% of Europe was wiped out. And the people realized they were killing themselves. They had a renaissance. Alla Romana e all'antica, in the manner of the Romans and the ancients, to describe the quality of their work. We need a renaissance, and we need peace. Peace is prohibited. I had a big peace rally up here in Kingston, New York, on September 28th. Among the speakers was Scott Ritter, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Streets packed. We sent out press releases to international, national, and local media. Zero coverage. And if the billionaires only put billions in bombs, if the billionaires gave billions of peace, we'd have peace tomorrow morning. I was the assistant to the Secretary of the New York State Senate. I used to work on major political campaigns in Westchester County, the richest county in America at the time. And it was the work. I quit. It's a freak show. Politicians are the lowest pieces of scum crap on earth. And below them are what people call bureaucrats. They're bureaucrats. They're scumbags that can't get a job in the real world, that suck into the political system, that become the most arrogant. What people got to get in their mind is that they are public servants. We pay for them. You do what we tell you to do. That has to be the attitude. Again, I launched Occupy Peace over a decade ago. And the foundation of it is close all those 900 military bases overseas in over 80 countries. What the hell are we doing over there as the country's rotting in front of us? Bring home the troops. Secure the homeland. You want to go to war? Let the people vote. We don't have a House of Representatives. They don't represent us. They represent the people that give them money that morons and imbeciles call campaign contributions. They're bribes and payoffs. The people have to take power. Look at Switzerland. The people vote for what they want to do. And that's what we need here and in every country, not these little clown boys and clown girls telling us what to do. It needs to be that kind of a society where the people vote, not the politicians. Go to one of your top trends for 2024. It came out on January 2nd of this year. A golden year for gold. Gold is up over $600 an ounce since we made that forecast. Just the beginning. What's very important, what goes up must come down, right? There's always the swings. In gold's rise of over $600 since January, it's gone down like at the worst downtime it hit. We would go down like $100 an ounce. that it has not had a big decline in this long is very important to watch. I started buying gold in the late 1970s. It was $180 or $163 an ounce. And that's when I became a trend forecaster. I write about it in the book Trends Tracking. When the Iranian conflict was breaking out, how they taught us to hate Iran without knowing how the United States overthrew the democratically elected government of Mossadegh in 1953 along with the UK, because he had the nerve to say that oil does not belong to Anglo-Iranian oil, better known today as BP, or Standard Oil, better known today as ExxonMobil. It's the Iranian people's oil. And Churchill and the CIA overthrew the government. People had no idea about it. They just taught us to hate the Iranians. And I said to myself, gold and oil prices are going to go up. I started playing the futures market. That's when I became a trend forecaster and quit my job. Gold is the number one safe haven. And the cryptocurrencies, they've lost their flair. They don't have the flair they used to have. Because if people weren't buying all of these cryptos, gold prices would be more than double what they are. But what happened, like for example, when inflation's skyrocketing, like places in Argentina, 300%, people aren't buying gold. They're buying tiny bits of cryptos to try to keep their currency from going to zero. That's ending. I've been very bullish on it for a long time, but I believe that now the safe haven money is going into gold. And also, much of the world has had enough of the United States geopolitical and socioeconomic hegemony. So you got the BRICS. We could see in the very near future a currency coming out backed by gold. And that's the way I see it. And then silver is going to be behind it, but silver is going to go up too.